Hello, brother.
What's up? How you doing? Let's go.
Well, thanks for reaching out. That was usually I look for people and guests and topics and stuff, and you reach out, which is always nice. I think that's maybe the third guest that did that, and so it's always refreshing and good to see. That probably there's some stuff that resonates on some level, and that you probably want to talk about, and so.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just see where it takes us. I mean, you're in the UK, I assume, right?
I'm in England, yes.
Yeah. How are things there? Because I used to live there 15 years ago, almost. Yeah.
I'm not a negative man by any sense of the word, but but you're challenging me with that question.
No, but let's talk about it. That's part of life.
I love England. Obviously, if the sun was here more, it'd be great. I don't feel much community where I am, in the sense like I don't know what to expect. I mean, I've lived all over the world, really.
Yeah.
But and I tend to chase the sunsets, and I love the sun. I love to be in the warmth. I love nature, and obviously when it's miserable outside, it's not very inviting, and it does affect your mood. Like, it really does affect your mood. But my mum is here, my little brother is here, and and my older brother's further along, and my dad's the other direction as well. But we're all here, and really, home is where the heart is. So I'm making the most of it wherever I am, and I'm actually planning to go to LA on the 14th, so in like 8 days, and yeah, I'm going for the sun, because I could see August was ending, and I was like, I need to go. Where do you live?
Okay. I'm in Croatia.
Okay.
Yeah. So
where are you from?
I get you. Well, I'm German and Croatian, so I'm half.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but I grew up in Germany, and then was all over the place, basically in my late teens and in my early 20s. Traveled a lot, and then so yeah, I've seen a couple of places, but I get it. I think southwest England is not that bad in terms of weather, right? If you compare it to Western Europe, it's actually not that bad. But I understand what you're saying. Like, it's that component there.
Well, so where I am right now is actually, I think it's like one of the sunniest places in the area. It's not saying much, but like it is, and I'm so blessed. Like, I've lived in London for about 10 years on and off. I've been going other places in the middle, but that's been my base. And I've come out here now, and there's like out the backyard, there's a woods, and I just walk my dog for like an hour or two a day. Lots of farms where I've been, probably shouldn't be going into the farms, but I do, and you're just having a lovely time here, really. I just feel so grounded in nature, and that was something that I never appreciated really when I was younger, at all. But like, since my sort of awakening experience that I had maybe 4-something years ago, it was something that I really got pulled into, and have learned to appreciate every day since then.
Yeah, I think it's impossible to go inwards if you're just in that stressful environment all the time. Like, it's very difficult. I think, but let's say if you're very experienced and then you go into it, maybe you can make it. But like, if you're still learning and you have that change that's happening, it's just going to distract you. Like, it's impossible to be in a big city. Like, I also lived in London and Bogota and a couple of big cities, Barcelona, and it's just, I think I would never go back at this point in time. It's just like impossible.
I know. I keep hearing myself, because I'm 27 now, and when I moved to London, I was like, why would I be in these small towns? But I'm getting it more and more now, because I like your I like your logo of you under the tree, I would imagine. I really love it. I always say to people, I am a tree, especially since my awakening. I was like, I am a tree, and I like the idea of like being somewhat stationary and allowing what's meant for me to come to me, as opposed to going out in the world chasing and trying to take from other trees. It's like, no, just like be grounded in my roots and allow me to produce good fruits, I suppose, you know. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So technically, that logo came about because I put a sauna in my garden when I moved here, and because the winter is quite tough. You know, I'm on an island, and it's like super lonely, right? Like you've been there too. And you know, there's a couple, like 2,000 people on the whole island, and like, you know, I know a few and stuff, but like don't really have any friends. I'm just with my family basically, right? And so just put the sauna there to bring me through the winter, and it's right under the pine tree. And you know, that's why I contemplate. That's why you know, I think, I go inwards often, and you know, that's how it came up. Because like I always had this idea of this podcast, right? And it was never the right time, obviously, right? Like you just keep pushing it, and you know, moving to a place where I don't really interact with people that much anymore, because I used to be like out and about all the time, you know, every day out, you know, meetings, events, like all the time, right? And so after moving here, that stopped, right, completely. And I said, okay, now is the time to have like a good conversation, like at least once a week, right, with someone that interests me, that I can learn from. And so that's how it came about.
Hell yeah, man, I love it.
Yeah,
I actually had the vision of creating like the book cover as that, and I can't do it anymore. But yeah, it's really cool, bro. I have like a deep connection with trees. Actually, trees were a part of my. I'd love to hear yours. Part of my awakening experience where I was climbing a tree. I felt guided to climb it, and I started to recognize my fearful thoughts as something that I wasn't, and it was like it kept telling me I was going to fall. Thoughts kept telling me I was going to hurt myself or die. And in the weirdest way, it was just like, wait, who's telling me that I'm going to fall? Because I'm good. Like I've got control. I can hold onto the branch. And it was this really like, it sounds so silly, but it was this really like mind blowing experience that like changed my life forever. And from then on, it was this seeking of trying to understand what the fuck, like I've been living by this voice my entire life. I've been allowing it to keep me from going up to the girl or going for this or trying that, and all the while like not having faith in God, but also in myself in a way. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think this is due to like us growing up without, you know, the help that we need to get good at stuff, right? Like it's very rare that you stumble upon something by accident, you know, like apart from sports, right, where you actually get really good at it, because you're so focused on school, right, and like all that knowledge that you bombarded with, you know, and so you don't really excel in anything because you don't have the time to put it, you know, to place, right, like to actually train and excel at it. So that's because us men, right, I think that's where the confidence comes from. Like it comes from being really good at stuff, right? And like comparing yourself to the other and like saying, man, I'm much better than him. And if he needs help, he can come to me, right? If I need help with the stuff that he's good at, right? And so we're just like wandering around in school. And I mean, that's, you know, like that deliberately built that way, right? But like we're just wandering around and like not really finding anything that we're good at. And so we're kind of scared of that branch, right? We're scared of that tree.
Absolutely.
Instead of approaching people, right? Yeah, because we're just constantly like unsure what the next day is, because that's literally what that system is built like, right? Like you just learn for the test, you get out of it, and you have no idea what's going to happen. It's something completely new is coming up, and again you're in that fearful state because you pressured into these tests, you pressured into these exams, right? And then you kind of get old, and then you're like, fuck, why did I even spend time in these institutions? You know,
I know.
I speak a lot about this on this podcast because I'm all for homeschooling. You know, I'm like all for it. And
right. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about.
It's one of the reasons. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why, you know, I also moved out of Germany, basically, because in Germany it's compulsory, right? So if you don't put your kids in the system, they will come up and they will knock on your door, you know, and eventually you get into problems. So, you know, so I said, okay, I'm not going to put myself in this position where, you know, I don't have choice, because I think choice is the most important thing that we have in life. And if we cannot make the choices that we stand by and, you know, basically you're proud of, then, you know, it goes fast down the drain. Everything goes down the drain, right? So that was one of the main, you know, motivators, apart from, you know, the whole COVID years, right? Which obviously showed us, you know, what humanity is like. And kind of was a catalyst. And I mean, you also talk about the new world and stuff. We can go into that too. But how was school for you? How was that whole experience?
You know, I failed school, but I would say school failed me. It was like really, as soon as I left, you know, I got into fights. I was kicked out of class all the time. And one of the main problems that I had, which was a good problem to have, was all the teachers liked who I was, but I couldn't behave. So on the parent teacher evening, where my parents would come in and speak to them, they were like, you know, they were kind of like found me endearing, but they were like, but he doesn't stay, he doesn't put hand up, he doesn't stay in his chair. I have to kick him out. He's disrupting the other kids. But you know, and so my parents never put too much pressure on me. Although, like, you know, I mean, as much as, you know, my parents are quite relaxed, but you know, they had more than a few arguments with my mum about my behavior and et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't do my homework and whatnot. But it was the moment that I left school that I was actually almost like recognized who I was. I moved to London when I was 17, and a guy said to me, he was like, "You're wise beyond your years, Fabian. You should read this book called The Alchemist." And I was like, "I don't fucking read, bro." And but I admired him. He was quite a few years older than me. I admired him, and I was going to China at the time, so I picked the book up, and that was really the beginning of learning that I love to learn. And it was like reading about the Illuminati and how we'd been lied to and things. And that was like, oh, like in the moment, it was like, oh my God, the Earth's flat. And it was like all of this stuff when I was young. But then I realized like, oh, I just love to learn. Whereas like in school, it was like shoving it down my throat and I had no choice. And like you're talking about, and it was just, it went against my soul. And so I naturally rebelled. And it was almost like I had to develop this arrogant shield around me to protect myself from being um, uh, created into a bot, basically. Because I guess I don't know if I've been here before, but my soul knew what they were trying to do. I didn't know. But like, do you know what I mean? It's like it's like a vibrational thing, especially because I was unconscious as a child in every sense of the word. But yeah. So you're homeschooling your children now.
Well, I mean, my old son, he's not even in that age yet, but yeah, he doesn't go to kindergarten. You know, we tried. I let him choose, and it just wasn't for him. You know,
what about the socialization of the children?
Yeah. Well, that's you know, the first thought that comes to mind with other people, and I get it, but I think socialization doesn't happen in these institutions.
Yeah, you're right.
It's everything around that, right? Like I just took him to his first karate lesson the other day, and
yeah,
I think that's where socialization happens, right? Like you connect over hobbies and over interests, right? Like you don't connect over stuff that you don't like, you know, because
and also pushing like said, against the boundaries of what's possible. Whereas they're like, no, stay in the boundaries. Whereas karate or martial arts, it's like you push up against the other person and you're testing, you know,
Yeah, it's exactly like, because like who do you get to know in these institutions actually? Like you just said, you put up that mask, right? Like you had a different persona in there, and everybody does. You know, there's like maybe 5% that actually love that institution because that's how, you know, that's how they are. You know, this NPC life, but it's most people in there already aren't themselves. So who's your child meeting in there? You know, fake whatever. So that's not socialization. That's just like waste of time. That's an absolute waste of time and absolute waste of energy. And we don't need children to be sitting in a chair, especially boys in the best hours of the day when the sun is out, and sitting still and learning stuff they're not interested in. Like that's for sure the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, and they create this like radioactive nervous system because we aren't in an environment that's conducive for our learning and our best interest. And so we grow up with these issues. Like personally, like I don't, you know, go around labeling myself, but you know, ADHD, that's for sure me. And I got put on meds as well, like a few years ago that I don't, you know, 5 years ago or something. I don't take them anymore, but I tried it out. And there's a lot of like it just, children are the root of it all. And this this is what I've realized. I have an 18-year-old brother, and I've really realized so much about parenting by like reparenting my inner child, by like coming into contact with my emotions that I've been afraid to feel, and then realizing, oh, this is how I'm supposed to parent gently. Like these, like, oh, this is how actually like one is raised, not just fed and like moved along into traffic. Get to that point, get to the next objective, get to the next objective. No, that's not what it's about. It's really about presence. And one of my quotes that came out of my mouth the other day that I wrote about is presence and play equals freedom. And I did make a promise to myself when I was young to not forget what it's like to be a child, because it just seemed like all of the adults never understood. They're like, they've become bots. They've moved into this robotic way of thinking, and they don't know what it's like to be us. Yeah. Open,
Yeah.
I guess that's the word, if I could simplify it.
Well, that's a journey of becoming a father. I hope you'll have that experience as well, because it is probably one of the most eye-opening and yeah, it's the most eye-opening experience, at least in my life. And it's all about going inward, just like you said, right? Like it has nothing to do with the child's behavior. It's all about you and your partner, right? It doesn't matter what happens. It's all a reflection of you. It's all an amplification of your thoughts and your feelings and your aura, right? And your energy and your vibe. And they pick it up. They pick it up like through the wall, right? Like they're in a different room and they'll pick it up, right?
Yeah.
And once you see that, then it's all about you. Like people get like angry with their kids when their behavior is in a certain way, right? And I'm like, well, did you check what you and your partner are like today? Did you meditate this morning? Did you get your energy in shape before you enter the house?
So I'll ask you a question. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
So my dad left 4 years ago, and since then I've kind of like, I'm not my little brother's dad by any means necessary. I would never say something so disrespectful, but I'm around him and I'm raising him because I've, been in this process of raising myself from a boy to a man. And so there's elements of growth that I feel are necessary, because I feel like if you don't have a masculine presence pushing up against you to help you grow, to make you grow, then the world is going to fucking make you do it,
Yeah.
So I've taken on this like somewhat responsibility, but yesterday he had an anger outburst at me, and I don't have a temper in the sense like I would never, lay my hands on him. I mean, he's 9 years younger than me, but waking him up out of bed yesterday 4 times, got him up at 8, and then by 12, and he needs me to let him be. Needs me to let him be. Needs me to let him be. So I gave him another half an hour, another hour. Gets to 12, and I just walk up. I'm like, "Come on, mate, you fucked it now." And then he got up aggressively and like on his knees on the bed and just like went to smack me. Smack me in the chest. And I come away from that and I feel hurt. I feel disrespected. I feel all sorts of things. I took his PS5 away, which is not something I regularly do, but he's hit me and I don't know what's the best thing to do, because I've been patient, I've communicated, I give him so much time, and then he does that and I think to myself, like, what am I supposed to do? Because I'm not an advocate of taking the thing that brings him happiness, but also there's got to be some form of, and so I want to hear what your thoughts are on that, because I didn't meditate in the morning, and my prayer life hasn't been as strong as it could be. And so I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on that and how you.
So first of all, he's not a child anymore, right? That's my first thought, and like he's in that age where he has to learn himself, I would say. Even as hard as it is for you to see that and to look at it, I think it's time for him to learn, how to navigate life, right?
You mean like just sort of let go of the responsibility?
Yeah, maybe just be the brother, right?
Right.
Like you can just live by example, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I do as well. You know, that's the best thing we can do, live by example, and watch out what we say, how we do, how we behave, right? Like that's the ultimate parenting, right? And if they want, you know, help navigating, sure, right? But like forcing in a certain way, or, you know, don't do that. I mean, sure, before they hurt themselves, you know, when they're kids, sure, right? But I think he's at this age where you just have to, you know, let him do his thing, right?
So I
But
tell
that
my
also
mum I
but that
won't wake
also
him up
means,
and that sort of stuff.
yeah, but that also means, you know, when shit hits the fan, you're not getting him out of it,
Right.
right? Because if he expects you to jump in when shit hits the fan, he's not learning,
Hmm.
right?
Because for example, like I mean, this is his story to tell, so I have to sort of speak a bit cryptically. But you know, I had 4 years ago sort of psychosis kind of symptoms, and I did have a psychosis. It was the most mental experience of my life, and you know, in the recent weeks, he's had like the most mental time,
Mm.
and whispers in his ear and all of this stuff. Like it's been the most chaotic experience of his life. So he's been in my bed sleeping with me type shit, like cuddling him to sleep type shit.
Yeah,
And so I've had these sorts of things where it's like you are 18, but actually there is some things where you need to be cradled.
yeah.
And
But
then
that's
it's like,
different. That's different. If he's going through really hard time and he wants your help, that's different, you know. But then he has to accept you like showing him the way. But
yeah,
right,
right.
maybe it's just a different way of talking to him, right? Maybe you just
Yeah,
have to test a little bit, right? And
yeah.
like maybe give him the right thing to read, right? Or you know,
Mm,
try to explain to him why technology isn't the right thing to do at this moment, right? Like
yeah,
playing these video games and all that shit is not going
yeah.
to help him, right?
Yeah, it hurts. It hurt. I guess it's like because the one thing, like again, I don't. He does what he wants throughout the day, but my one thing is bed on time and wake up. Because if you don't wake up, then you don't go to bed on time, and if you don't sleep properly, what happens?
Yeah,
And then
of
you keep
course.
me up.
Yeah,
I've got work to do, you know.
yeah.
So that's really where it comes from. But
But
I appreciate.
what about if you just do it differently? What about if you kind of get him to exercise with you at a certain time in the morning?
Oh, I really do, but it's
Doesn't
like
want.
oh, it's impossible, bro. 4 years I've been at him. I've been taking him running, trying to take him running, but he doesn't exercise. He
Yeah.
doesn't like
What about
like
boxing
really.
or something like that?
I've been boxing with him outside actually, and he did it.
Yeah.
It took him about 3 minutes until he had a big smile on his face and he started to get it. Um,
Well, but put him in a dojo.
I mean, he doesn't want to do
He
that, but I've been
yeah.
telling
Well, it
him he
doesn't
needs to
matter.
be
Like
around
just
other men.
yeah, yeah. It does. He does. Yeah.
He does.
That's a good thing. Like get him into a boxing gym
Yeah.
and just kind of force him to do that, and like just say, okay, look, if you go 10 times, I will get you this or something like that. Just
Yes.
feed him a little goodie, you know, and then he
Mm.
will get into it and he will start liking it. I think because that's a good way out of this.
100%. Like
Yeah,
martial arts is the way for
yeah.
children, young men
It's for
especially. Yeah,
everyone. For everyone.
it
It's
is. Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
for us men. It's gold. Yeah. It
It
just gets
really is.
you in touch with your body and your mind, right? Like it's this mind muscle connection and that focus, right? I also got that ADD stamp, you know, in kindergarten, right? So I understand where you're coming from. And it's like I would have needed that. I mean, I went to judo when I was pretty young. That was the first thing I tried, but it wasn't the right thing, you know. And I was playing piano, and then my mom didn't allow me to do kickboxing, but I always wanted to do kickboxing very early on already, right? And that was kind of the problem there, right? Because don't hurt your wrist. You're too good at playing piano, but I'm like, fuck, I need this, right? And so, you know, I went into video games like super deep at like 12, 13, 14. I was playing like a lot, like 8 hours a day, like in that realm, escaping.
What were you playing? RuneScape?
Counter-Strike Source, Counter-Strike 1.6.
Right.
And then later it was Battlefield 1942 a bit as well, but
I
like it
feel
was mostly ego shooters.
I learned like a lot of things from video games. So, you know, I think if you've got the eye to see, like it can teach you a lot about life. One of my analogies that I use to teach people is that on Call of Duty on Team Deathmatch, if my team are going this way, because you can only see your team on a map, if my team go this way on the map, I always go the opposite direction to my team because that's where the enemies are going to spawn.
Yeah.
And I find that life is like that. Like you watch where the masses go and you go the opposite direction, at least not go where they're going.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
For me it was interesting because we played in a team, right? Like we were playing against other teams. It was like, close
Right.
to like professional setup, right?
Did you all meet
And
online, or were you friends in real life?
no, just online.
Right.
Just online, like across Germany, and like some
Mm.
international people. And we're playing like properly, with strategy and like training for the actual games and stuff like that.
Whoa.
So like I was good at it, right? That's what we talked about before. Like school didn't give me that feeling. So as soon as I left school, I went into that world because I got the
Ah,
feedback, that I felt good, right? Like I had a
shit.
purpose, you see?
Yeah, I
And
understand.
that was the whole thing, and then sure, like that my addictive tendencies, that later translated into drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. But like that gaming was kind of what pushed me through school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting insight, and something that I'm going to have to talk about. Just that idea of, you know, repeatedly going back to the place where you're valued, and you recognize your innate talent and your gift, if you like, because you've
That's all it
honed
is.
in on a craft, and you're, magnetized to where it is that you're appreciated almost. And
That's
that's
all
what
it is.
happens with the people that become, the beer guy and the laughter guy, and it's like they get that dopamine, that stimulation from being the jester, and they
Yeah.
can't get out of that role, that archetype. But to surrender that archetype and move into the place where you're a fool, like you must become a fool to become a master, I suppose. And
Yeah.
and I found that in the martial arts gym for a long time. I was afraid to go in, and I started boxing, and I recognized that the men that I was afraid of were actually probably the kindest. They were always so like gentle and
Yeah.
welcoming, and the guys that were just like, of course you're going to meet some prats that don't know their own strength, but
Always.
it's all just part of it. And what a wonderful experience it is to be around other men and test your strength, and also get advice, and it not be this sort of like, why are you telling me what to do, but actually like they want
Yeah.
to help you, you know and that's like a beautiful thing. You feel like part of a community, and I feel like
Yeah.
that's the most important thing for young men, actually, is community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think softness can only come out of violence with us, men.
I like
You
that.
know,
That's
like
a
it's like
bar.
if you haven't seen violence, if you haven't seen pain, like where should real softness come from?
Wow.
You know, and so it's absolutely crucial that us men try these types of sports. Like there's different kinds of variations, right? Like some are happy with rugby and whatnot, but like it's different, right? Like again, it's a different thing because with martial art, you by yourself, right? Like you hear. You have to control your emotions, you have to control your adrenaline, you have to control your heartbeat. Like all that stuff like teaches you so much about stressful situations in life and everything, right? But like I just wanted to add to what we said before. If you as a child or as men, we want to be and feel respected, right? Like that's in the end, that's very important for us, right? If it's a
Yes.
partner, right? And when we're younger, it's a school, it's the group, right? Like the older you get, the less you care about that. But like at that age, it's crucial what your friends think about you, right? And what the class thinks about you. And so if you don't find that, and if you don't hear any good stuff that's being said about you, you're gonna look for distractions, and you're gonna be in your own little world, right? And that's why for me, gaming was the way out, right? And I felt good at it. And I checked a couple years later, and I had like a couple thousand hours of gaming on just one game. Just one Counter-Strike Source was like 3,000 hours. And just imagine that time being put into an actual skill.
Yeah, well, I docked in probably over 1,000 on Skyrim,
No.
and Lord knows how much I played RuneScape. Oh, God's sake, frightening, just truly frightening. And I came up with this thing because I went viral the other day. One of my videos has
Mm,
got 1.9 million views on it on Instagram,
nice.
and it was a polarizing video because I had the blessing and the opportunity to go to Mecca and Medina, and I was exploring Islam, and we could talk about that briefly. But
Sure.
I was I yeah, I went viral, and what I noticed in myself was that I kept picking my phone up because it was addicting to like see that, like, the notifications, what's going on, and people are arguing about the white guy that's in Medina. Why are you recording, and all of this
Yeah.
stuff. And But what I noticed is actually it's the same with our heart, that as we like remain steadfast and we keep our heart open through the pain, through the pleasure, and everything, that we are gifts are bestowed upon us from God, that we get these spiritual gifts, we get like true compassion, we get these gifts. Like when I'm going back on my phone, I'm looking, and the more the further along the path of the heart you walk, the easier it is. The knowing is just stronger, that like, no, I must stay open, I must remain open, because I know that this is a more blessed, joyful life than any other resentments or any of this stuff. So I thought that was quite a cool insight.
Yeah, for sure. But talk about it. What were you testing? Was that like a deliberate test, or did it kind of just guide you into it?
Islam.
Yeah.
So throughout my psychosis, I had floating out of my body experiences, these otherworldly experiences, seeing my deceased grandmother and talking to her for over a month. And I had these really otherworldly experiences that I never expected, because I wasn't a spiritual child by any means. And my grandmother, I grew up with her, actually saw her very rarely, but when I did, she would be talking to things in the room that weren't there, and I didn't know what was going on, but she was. And when she passed, I moved into her cabin, and I had this, I was like laying in my bed, and my hands were being pulled out of my body, and then I'd like open my eyes, and my hands were still there, and I'd close my eyes, but my hands were being pulled out of my body, and I was having all of these really, really strange experiences, and so then my life fell apart. Like, no money, no love, no. My parents were divorced, and I was just like COVID, God's sake, cherry on top. And then I came across Islam, and it had this display of masculinity. It had this display of knowing. It had this display of discipline. It had this display of a fresh start. You take your shahada and you begin again. And so I just kept on immersing myself in the stories and the faith, and watching videos and videos and videos, and I'll get completely absorbed in whatever it is that I do. I was staying up till silly o'clock making music every day, and I found Islam. And what I noticed is I just thought, like, well, I'm just going to put myself in this and try this out. So I didn't really tell anybody, but I bought a prayer rug, felt inspired, and I took my shahada in my room, didn't tell anybody. It wasn't like this, like, by the way, mum, I'm this. Like, it wasn't like that. But I was trying out the practices, and I learnt the Arabic in my room by listening to the little boy cartoon, and I learnt the Arabic, kept doing it, sounding it out like I would a child with words. And so, and then I started taking Arabic lessons. And so I began the prayers. And what I noticed is the prayers moved me a state above all of my problems. And so porn disappeared, alcohol disappeared, cigarettes disappeared. Not that I gossiped, but gossiped disappeared. Actually, I did gossip about my family to my friend, and I'd complain about what they're doing, this, doing, that, doing. So I did gossip. Not about what Sandra said at work, but like, I did. And so these sorts of things became almost like distasteful for me. And I was like, there's something here though, because even though I don't believe in hell in the sense that they're talking to me about it, and I don't believe in this like, reward system, in this, the way that it's like an archaic idea, because I already had my awakening. But then they also brought towards me the stories of the jinn, and they were born out of smokeless fire, and Allah created them, and they live among us. And I was like, well, I've definitely seen some of them, like, and they probably came to me pretending to be my grandmother, pretending to be my grandfather, for me to trust them, and portrayed themselves in a certain way. And so it started to make sense of my insanity. And so I followed that path for a couple of years, and I got lucky enough to go out there, and it was just something else. Like, really, I was incredibly respectful. You're in another man's land. It's incredible out there, like the way that they're all moving. And a year and a half, I was in my room doing these prayers on my own, and all of a sudden I've got 1,000 people in front of me doing the same action. It was just, I was in awe of it. really, I was in awe of it. And I've got hardly any footage, but the 8-second footage I did have was actually the one that went viral. And it took me 2 years for me to even put it on social media, because it wasn't a social media stunt. It was really just like I was exploring who I am and what does this mean to me. And so I know I don't walk around with the title of a Muslim, but I took my shahada, so I guess I am one that submits his will to God. I attempt to submit my will to God every morning and every day, and so that's that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for exploration, right? Like I think it's what life is all about. You have to try out things and see what works, right? Like I was an altar boy when I was super little, so my mother, very Christian, so but there was always something off for me, right? Like I was sitting up there and looking down on these people, and they would always get the same spot, right? And they would always have the same face, and most of them weren't happy, right? So the older I got, the more I thought about this. I'm like, why are people coming here and the next week they're in the same mood, right? Like, shouldn't this actually help them in a way, right? And then it just kind of didn't really make sense. And the older I got, the more I learned about the church and what went on there and how this whole story developed. And so that was the ending for me for that journey. But I get it. It's like if you need guidance, if you need a hand, like it's really good, right? But like in the end, what is it? Like you want to go inwards and you want to learn about yourself and you want to listen in and you want to learn about yourself and progress in life and try to understand, God and is it within you? Is it, and that's kind of where I have, some reservations because like it's not an external thing.
Yeah, and I think that I recognize, Sufism. I don't know if you've heard of this. I'm sure maybe
Yeah.
you have, and that was what I was more connected to, as opposed to the fundamentalist. And I went to Mecca, and I didn't enjoy Mecca at all, really. I mean, I was in awe of what was happening. Of course, I was. I mean, this is just insane that people live like this, and people sell an arm and a leg to get there. It's a very, very, very serious topic of discussion. Very serious. Once in a lifetime opportunity for many. So there was, and I went during Ramadan and I was dry fasting. So I was dehydrated, I was malnourished, and putting myself even through fasting before Ramadan happened because I'm intense individual. And so I was a bit of a shell of myself, but Medina, I loved, I really, really did love it. And I'm grateful to have been to experience it. I really am. But yeah, I believe that we're developing in a level of consciousness as a society, as a world, as humanity, and our understanding of the truth is shifting as we grow in consciousness. And as you and I, seek the truth and we embody the truth, then we are raising the collective consciousness of our family and then also the world. And I think these books are books of wisdom. They are like the ocean. Every time you open them, they're changing and shifting based on your level of consciousness at the time. And I've talked about this in videos, that's why they can be used for atrocities and used to harm people, or they can be used to guide a wise man or a wise woman. And so I have a deep reverence for it all. I really do. I think it's all wonderful. And I think about Jesus and I think about this and I think about that. But I think the truth is like Christ consciousness and the path of the heart and being open. But again, I might come and get saved by Jesus next week. I have no idea.
Yeah, everybody's journey is different, right? I don't know if you've tried plant medicine.
I have.
Have you got? Yeah. So I think that opens up a lot of different perspectives, right? Like you understand, okay, it's all here. It's all here. Right. And once you've seen that, you cannot unsee it. Right. And why would I, go back to the external and look for help there? Right. It's all here. But it's all here if you got all these layers out of the way, if you had to put that mask away, if you speak with truth, right? And not how you think that others want to see you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a powerful alchemical process to put myself online and just share myself where I'm at now. Like I always waited for me to when I'm ready, like when I've arrived, but there is no such bloody thing. And so now I talk about Islam, I talk about Christianity, I've had the Quran or the Bible in some of my videos, and I've shared the idea that I have no idea. And this has been a thing for me because I do shift through different periods of my life, and sharing yourself online, it's like I don't want people to put me in a box. But actually nobody can, people can do what they want, I have no control over them, but I don't have to put myself in a box, and I can allow myself I can allow myself to shift and change and move like the ocean. So I'm really, really enjoying that exploration, and I'm inviting people to explore with me, and that's beautiful. And I think that's kind of my niche now. It's ironically the thing that held me back is the thing that's working in my favor. So yeah, it's a
Well,
powerful process.
it's where we feel the most restriction is where we should go, right? Like it's always that.
Right.
It's the same thing with this podcast, like it's like I just like I thought about like geopolitics and all these topics very early on. During uni, I was reading all these books, right? I didn't study, I was doing that stuff, right? And partying, that was and working a little bit, right? But like that's what I did. So I learned about the world and how fucked up it is, all that stuff, right? and so that's kind of what I try to push onto people then, because I'm like, do you not see this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's right there. It's right there. You're in the city of London. Like, do you not see this financial system? Like it's exploiting. It's all this and that. And until you realize that everybody has to learn by themselves, right? You cannot change anyone else. You can only change yourself, and that's the only thing you can do. Right? And that's a good thing about conversations like this, because if we talk about this, whoever listens, they can take whatever they want from this conversation. I'm not forcing anyone to listen to this, like listen to someone else. It's fine. Like, I'm good with that. But like, if you do listen, just know that I'm speaking my truth here. I'm trying to, I'm getting much better at this. And I would say I improved a lot these last like 2 years.
I'm sure.
And so, that's my personal opinion, right? Like, and you can just take away from that what you want. But like, just to what you said before, like we're always being judged.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at what point of your evolution you're always being judged by someone. So it doesn't really matter. It's like, if it's not that one person anymore, it's going to be the other, because like just that evolution of the other person, they just see what they want to see. How they see the world is how they're going to see you.
Yeah.
Right. And so it doesn't matter.
100%.
You will always have that feedback, and that negative and positive feedback, luckily, right, as well. But it's just the way that is. So, yeah, do you want to add to that?
Well, yeah, and I think that the ability to hold those conflicting emotions at the same time is part of the success when putting yourself online, or just in life in general. Because if you are authentic, it's polarizing. People are not going to like you, and people are going to love you, and that's just what it is. And like I've found that by starting small, personally, what I did was I basically started a challenge where I was going to do like one video on YouTube didn't excite me, so I decided to do one video a day for 100 days, rather than trying to make a perfect video of like, I've got so much to share, what is it that I want to share? And also you almost like only have access to a pea-sized amount of who you are, but then once you share that, then you get a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more, like a conversation. It begins to flow. And so I did that, and then by the 60th video I found the confidence to go on Instagram, and then TikTok. And then now it's like I've really found my voice, and I've allowed myself to be seen who I am. And that's the alchemical process that I've needed to heal my inner child, because I'm not only allowing other people to witness me, but I'm also like loving myself enough to let myself be seen. So it's this like every day I'm actually healing the part of myself that would need, like you were saying, need to tell other people, because actually I'm finding my flock, like they're finding me, they're coming to the tree, as opposed to me, going up to other people with rotten fruit, and I'm like, yo, can you not see that if you go, heal your roots, like, and they're like, no, get fuck off, like I don't need to hear you. And so now it's like, even the relationships that I would attract with women would be this, I enjoyed this teacher role that I had, like, because I knew stuff, whereas like now I don't like that anymore. I'm I'm trying to find a woman embodied in her soul now, because I'm actually the part of me that needs to teach is being used, because I do one-on-ones and whole group classes, and I'm on YouTube and etc. etc. So that's been fulfilled, and now I'm actually like looking for a partner to stand beside me and teach me a lot as well.
Yeah.
Not that the other women didn't teach me, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's that thing that you attract subconsciously, right? Like I also, like the relationships I had in my 20s, you know, like especially the one when I had like this big bang, you know, like the dark night of my soul, and like all this pain and all that stuff. That in the end, it was all up to me, you know, because we try to, you know, mostly we point the finger, and it's the partner, you know. It's like, but it was all me, you know. I needed that at the time.
Yeah.
I needed this behavior and this eye opening, you know, happening, and it was needed, and I attracted it, and it's all good. But once you understand that, you know, again, you know, it's all about you, right? You can only change yourself.
Yeah.
And you will attract the right partner, you know. And it's not, you will not always attract it like when you're in that perfect spot. You know, God will put you together with the right partner at the right time. In my case, it was the same, you know.
Yeah.
You know, my wife, we've been together for many years, and like it's, you know, she came in a spot where I wouldn't have thought, you know, that she would come. I wasn't looking, you know.
Yeah.
And
Well,
she
that's
just, she,
it, isn't it?
you know.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Eyes In on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
He posted something the other day that blew my mind. I feel like it, and he said that one of the biggest initiations that he had was letting go of a relationship that wasn't bad. And I read the whole thread, and I was like, dude, like that like 3 months ago, I had to let go of somebody that I love. I love her dearly, but for a long time, my soul has been like, you need to let go, Fab. And you know, my ego is like, well, what is it wrong with her? Like, what's wrong with her? Like, well, you know, because this is right with her. Look at her. Like, she's amazing. She's patient with me. Like, she's compassionate. She's nurturing. I could tell she's going to be an incredible mother. Like, and God damn, is she beautiful? And like all of these things. And I'm like, well, what is it that's wrong with her? And so I was actually, the longer I stayed with this incredible person, the more victimized I felt, and the worse it was for my energy, because it was like, I've got commitment issues. But by working with my mentor Kyle Cease, I don't know if you've heard of him, but I worked with him a lot, and he said to me, he was like, "You don't sound like you've got commitment issues to me, Fab. You're committed to your soul's path." And I was like, "Whoa." That's like a mic drop for me. But yeah, so it's like that was a really thing, and I had to let go. And ironically, when I left, or unironically, when I actually got the courage and mustered up the courage to say goodbye, my business just went doof.
Well, there you go.
You know, and like my confidence started going doosh, and like, you know, it did start off with me doing the YouTube while I was still had her in my life and still had her in my life, but it was this like, I'm gonna move towards my soul and then allow everything else to just, it became painstakingly obvious that what I had to let go. Not just her, but other things. It was just like, I quit my modeling career. I moved out of London. I moved back in with my mum because that's where I feel safe. And if I feel safe, I'm not in survival mode. I'm not trying to pay my rent, paying $2,500 a month just to exist in London. Like I'm, you know, I'm now, in a shithole. And now it's like, I'm like able to like get the groceries from my mum. I feel useful. I'm around my younger brother. I'm able to help lift him up. I'm able to, you know, then be in creative mode for me to be able to make, you know, and do what I do best. So yeah, that's quite a profound realization.
Well, yeah, that's a very mature way to go about this, you know, like you know, that person can look perfect and like the relationship can be great, but like if you're not connected on that soul level, right, like you will get these hints, and like your soul was speaking to you all the time, right, or God
all the time,
right, and it was telling you, man, like you need to let go so you can develop into the man you're supposed to be.
All the
and there's
time.
nothing wrong with that, you know, and that's a beautiful thing about relationship, you know, because like if you don't understand that, then you will like throw your life away, because you will be in a relationship that's great, but it's not what it's supposed to be. right? Like your relationship should like lift everything up. It should lift the other person up. It should lift you up and make you the best person possible, right? Like and get rid of all that crap that's not supposed to be there, right? Like
Yeah,
all
man.
that ego shit that we learned in our early teens and in our early 20s, you know, like I was also looking for these models all the time, you know, like always had model girlfriends like all the time, you know, like these boss babes, you know, like that was my fucking game I was playing, you know.
Yeah, I understand that.
and
I can
and
understand that.
and you know and then in the end, like I'm like, fuck, why is this even, like, why am I looking for this external appreciation? Like the other men look at her in a certain way and I feel better. Like that's so stupid, you know. There's no point in this, right? And in the end, it's all about connection, right? Like you will feel attracted to that other person on such a deep level, and you will feel when it's effortless, when the nervous system is calm around that other person. That's the one you should go for,
Bro, like
you
I
know.
was in a car with this guy actually in LA. He picked me up, an Uber guy, and we just started having this depth of conversation. And you know, I greeted him. I got in. I was like, "How you doing, brother?" And he just felt like it was an invitation to talk about life and stuff. So because he was like, usually people get in the car and just think I'm an Uber driver, but so we had this, you know, really good conversation. And he said, "What do you look for in a woman?" You know, after talking for 20 minutes, and I was like, um, you know, I had to think about it, and I said, well, like, I want to look at my woman and think, wow, and it not just about her appearance, but I want to be like, wow, like I can't believe I found this individual. Like that's what I want to think. And
Yeah.
and he said, interesting, man, because he said most young men, what they do is they go for passion, but what you want to marry peace.
Yeah.
And I thought, whoa,
100%.
that's an insight that was really profound for me. It was like, huh, peace, huh? Peace. It makes
Yeah.
sense, you know? Yeah.
But like I like to frame it like around the nervous system, you know, because
Yeah.
you can have a peaceful home, but if it's boring, you know, if it doesn't like excite you, then it's the wrong piece, you know,
Interesting.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Right.
it's only your nervous system, if it's regulated, right? Like if you're out of place, you know, if you're constantly, you know, all over the place, then you won't get that right signal. But like if you calm down around that person, you know, if you can, for no reason, just laying next to you without anything, if it's just like coming down to that proper level, then that's a good thing. Because I've never experienced that with any woman before her, because I was just like right from the start. It was like, you know, like right away. It was clear. It was like a light bulb, like, wow, this is it. And then you first have to dissolve all these beliefs and all that other bullshit that you were carrying around. And then because you know, you're still looking for everything else, right? Is this, you know, is she doing that? Is she good? Is she going to be a good mother? All that stuff, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Right. But like if that's the baseline, like you're already in a very good spot, I think, and you can
Yeah.
build on that because it's work,
Yeah.
right?
It
Like it's
is.
relationship, like a good relationship was work, right? Like
Yeah.
you won't find that perfect partner, because like what does that mean even, right? Like you're changing all the time, right? Like
Mm.
if you're a person like we are, we're changing all the time. Like I'm not the same person I was yesterday,
Yeah.
right? So that's going to change the interaction with the other person, right? So what my second thing is that I think is very important about a relationship is the other person also keen on change? Is she developing? Is she like knowledgeable? Is she reading? You know, does she want to improve? Does she listen to what you're changing like on a
Mm-hmm.
daily basis, right? And that's the second thing, because like if there's no change on the other side, it's also not going to work, because you're not going to progress together, right? Like one is going to stay down here and the other one is just going to ascend, or you know, whatnot. And then you're going to be in this spot where it's also not going to work out anymore, even though everything else fits, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a minefield when you're young and you don't know these things, and you're just trying to be a good person, and you're trying not to like fuck up a good thing and like all of that sort of stuff. But then that's this um that's like the weirdest thing as well with the intuition. It's like intuition is the language of the soul. They say that I know the sensation of my intuition, almost like I know the sensation. And trying to explain that to somebody that doesn't is almost impossible. And you almost can't, like, what I tried to do is engage in conversation with the woman that I loved, trying to explain it to her, but she's never going to get it because of course her heart wants to stay with me, which is normal.
Yeah.
But so it was I was almost a coward for a long time, which again was bad for my self-esteem, a coward, because actually I knew and I wanted her to realize, but it wasn't about her. I didn't need
You
her
wanted
permission.
you wanted her to do the thing. You wanted her
I did.
to make the decision. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to abandon her like I felt like I'd been abandoned in the past. I didn't want to cause her pain. I
Yeah.
didn't, all of these things. I was a coward because actually it was like the best thing that I could do was give her to God and allow God to take care of her as if he wasn't going to anyway. You know, my ego, like my clouded sense of judgment is as though, you know, I'm the only man out there. Like it's not like that, you know, and projecting my own shadow into the other men and thinking that like they're all, you know, they're not good for her or whatever. Like, you know, all of these things that run around a young man's mind or a man's mind in general. It's a powerful initiation. Love is a powerful thing. Love of a woman. Oof.
Yeah, and I don't think, you know, we can jump this, right? Like even if somebody that's like 20 listens to this and they're like, that makes sense, you know, but they have to, you know, they do their own like life path. You know, you cannot jump this stuff, right?
No.
Like you have to first like get all these you know, like peel the onion, right? Get all that stuff away and like you peel it, and then you will reach that point where you understand it fully, right? Like it's the same with alcohol and drugs, right? Like how are you gonna feel that intuition when you like drinking? It's impossible. You know, that's something that I had to realize. You know, I always thought, you know, when in my 20s I could separate business and private, you know, and then I would attract like these wrong business partners because you would always be on some substance, right? Like if it's Ritalin or any other drugs, right? And alcohol almost on a daily basis at some point, right? And then your whole perception of everything that you do is falsified, right? Like it's not clear. You think it is because your nervous system got used to that level, that drunkenness or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But like it's not it's not what's actually happening in front of you. So you ignore these signs, right? Because you get these signs by the universe all the time. Because like, you know, I went through everything that went wrong and I you know, analyzed it, and there was always these signs, right? But I wouldn't listen because I thought I can do it, you know, whatever. Right?
Pride,
Let's focus on the product, you know, like let's not care about the human, right? They have a good product. Let's work with them.
Yeah.
And then it just explodes a couple years later, you know.
Yeah.
But like that's the substance, right? Like it's alcohol is a nasty one in that sense, you know, because it makes you feel better, right? Like you're on a different level, you're in a different vibration in that moment, and then you attract the wrong thing because it matches you at that level and not at your soul level.
Yeah, it's insane. Like that's where again, it's like that inside out world. We're living in verse. It's seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all else shall be added unto us. It's like we go around life so unconscious, and we have all of these behaviors, and we think that when life gets the way we want it, then we'll drop these things. But it's actually the opposite. It's like as you start to remove the things that are heavy vibrationally, that you slowly move up this thing, and that can be substances, that can be unforgiveness, that can be, you know, all of this stuff, and relationships that aren't good for you. And it takes true courage and willingness to just surrender to the truth, and to know what the truth is, clouded by all of the opinions and chemicals running through your veins. It's not a simple task. It isn't a simple task at all. No.
And especially if you want that dopamine hit all the time, you know. That was just my thing, you know.
Yeah.
All the time. Like I also didn't get the Ritalin when I was a kid, you know, because I'm luckily both of my parents understood what it was, but they wanted to, you know, doctors wanted to give it to me. But then I got them for university. I got them myself because I got to that point. I'm like, fuck, I have to study. I have to finish this dissertation, all that stuff. So I took them myself. But like, just like you, and I think you know that, like, you just become this robot, right?
Yep.
Like you're in this tunnel vision. You lose your human touch. At least that was the case with me. Like I didn't do any jokes anymore. Like my personality completely shifted, right? And I felt like shit, right? So and then all of a sudden, you know, you see cocaine, right? For example. that's much better.
Oh
You know,
wow, yeah,
that's much better. That in combination with beer or with wine, I'm still myself, and the focus is there.
yeah.
You know, that was my hard moment there, right? To understand this, and then, but what you just said, like surrender, talk about this quite often. I think that's such a good thing. Surrender experiment. Michael Singer. I don't know if you
Yeah,
read the book.
shout out to Mickey Singer. Yeah, I did. I
You know,
certainly did. Bro, when I first found that book, I gave up everything because I didn't understand it fully. I just
yeah,
literally, I just like, all right, I'm going to spend my money. I'm just going to let everything happen. I'm just going to let it all go. And then I had inspirations, but I didn't follow them because I was like, no, I'm trying to control my life. I'm trying to control it. And so it took me 2 years of fucking around to figure out what it meant. What was your experience with it? Tell me, please.
so I got the audiobook a couple years ago, and just like how I get them, and I leave them for a bit, and then at some point, I start listening to them, and because I did a lot of work, these last like 5 years, like a lot of stuff, and a lot of internal work, and then I found myself in these situations, and I worked with a coach, and I said to him, man, like I feel like I'm risk averse now since I have kids. I don't want to be, I don't want to risk anything anymore. Because I
Okay.
did that all the time. I would always go 100%, 150% leveraged all the way. I wouldn't care. It's like money was always like, I had it and it was gone. Like, and would always build these businesses that were super risky, and then, fuck a lot up, and like some would work, some wouldn't. And it was always fine. And then the kids come into play, and I'm like, I don't want to take that risk anymore. Right. And then he said, and that touches upon your point just a couple minutes ago. He said, your children and your wife, they will be fine without you. Like, think about that. I'm like, yeah, they will. Why wouldn't they? So whatever happens monetarily, or even if I wouldn't be there, if something would happen, they would still be fine. So why do you think that, risk is going to play into that, right? Like it's just that weird thought process again, right? That doesn't really make any sense, right?
Yeah.
But then surrender, I started practicing that because I had like a big blow up with the last business that I built. Also just the same topic from before, wrong partners, and through COVID, they just developed into these like cunts, in the end.
Yep.
And lawsuit there, then COVID hit, Russian market got closed, we were distributing to these areas and stuff like that. So all, everything came together, of course, right? All at the same time of me, getting rid of my addictions and all that stuff. So I started surrendering, and I said, okay, let God guide me, and let's see what happens, right? And just all the good stuff came, all the good stuff.
Yeah, it's quite magical, and when you sort of try to explain it, I've found that the further along this path that I walk, it's almost like you speak a different language. Like, we're speaking English, but people just like, they're just the words that come out of your mouth, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, it doesn't even mean the same thing when I say vibration, or when I say soul, or when I say God, or it doesn't mean the same thing to me than it does to another person. So you can be misunderstood all the time. So it's this need to surrender, the need to be understood. Because as I said the other day, it's like they don't understand you now, but they won't understand how you've done it either. And it is really all glory to God, because the path of the heart doesn't make sense to the intellect. Again, it's that quote. I love that quote. Is that we've developed a society that worships the mind, worships the intellect, and then forgotten the sacred gift of the intuition. And part of my work and part of your work is to spread that knowledge, to spread that wisdom of the intuition, and move and embody it, because that's the most important part. And yeah, just like you said earlier, the being the example, not the teacher.
You have to walk the walk.
Yeah.
So important, right?
Yeah.
And that's also, that whole coaching realm, right? That, I'm also being called to be of service, like it's coming, and I just look at this whole realm out there, and it's like all these people, life coaches and relationship coaches, and they're single, and they don't have any meaningful relationship, and they're like coaching other people how to navigate through this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell is that?
Mm.
Right? And
Yeah.
that 21-year-old will not see that, right? That 20-year-old just sees the Lambo, and sees the watch and the paid girls, and he thinks that's success, right? Because that's what we're taught, just monetary success. But what about all these other pillars? Right? What about family? What about relationships? What about spirituality? Like, you have to be good at all of these to be successful, right? It's not just the monetary things, but like that's one thing that I think is important to talk about as well, because like that helps, I think, especially young fellas, right? Like if they see that, like, man, like, yeah, maybe I should look for something else in the people that I listen to, right? Not just that flashing, glitzer, whatever, right? Like all these jewels and stuff, right?
When I started my YouTube channel, I started to do these one-on-ones. This was 3 years ago, throughout COVID, and it started as a bit of a hustle, because I've always sort of innately been that guider for people, and I've attracted these people towards me since I was young. That and I feel I feel the resonance of truth when it comes out of me, and I don't take like pride in it, but something, it's like I wanna serve people, I really do.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy that will meet somebody when I'm waitering and he's talking to me about something, and I'll text him in the morning and get his address and send him a book. Like I really go out there to try and help people, because I know that, I guess, I needed it and I didn't get it, and I'd had, so when I started to do the coaching, I I met like a lot of different people, and I never wanted to be a life coach. People wanted me, like when I was younger, like, why don't you do the fitness stuff? When I was into the gym, and I was like, no, that's not it. I don't want to be a personal trainer going to the gym. That's not it. Why don't you do this? That's not it. And then life coach, I was like, I hate that word. I mean, it's 2 words, but I hate those words. Like, it's just so cringy to me.
Yeah.
And then as time's gone on, and now I've like began to embody what I do say that I'm a spiritual teacher now. And I don't mean it in the sense of like I'm bloody Sadhguru, but I am. I'm somebody that dives into the realm of the unseen and brings back what I see, and I help people meander through their emotions and the all of it. And
Yeah.
it's a powerful thing. And you're never really ready to start. You're never really ready. But once you get into the groove of it, it's like, oh wow, like, I'm getting emails, people telling me that I'm changing their lives. And I think that all people really need to change their lives is, from my experience, is this new perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love and a new perspective is all my heart is trying to offer. And I think that that's what's changed me, all through the books and for the YouTube videos, from podcasts like yours. It's just like, oh, that insight, like 1 minute out of that 1 hour podcast is like really affected the direction of my life,
That's just it.
Yeah.
That's just it. But in the end, you're holding space, right?
Yeah.
That's all you can do. You're not pushing anyone in a certain direction. You're just holding the space, right? Like, you're just allowing stuff to come up and like let them heal themselves.
Definitely.
Right. And I think, you've worked through your shit, right? And then there's always work to do, right? Like all my good therapists and guides and
what do you mean I'm not done?
Yeah, you're done. Yeah. So they all still get coaching, all of them. And if you meet someone and you think he's the right coach for you, ask him that, right? Like, ask him, are you still learning? Are you still developing skills? Are you still and if they say no, it's the wrong coach.
Mm-hmm.
If they already know everything, it's the wrong coach, because you don't know shit.
Yeah.
Nobody knows anything,
Yeah.
That's the thing. And we're all just navigating.
Yeah, it's been a cool experience. Like I put on, because some people, people can't afford to work with me one-on-one, and I get this a lot of, a lot of people try to reach out and then they're like, oh, I can't afford it. And so I developed this idea to do a group class, and I thought to myself, like, how do I do this? Like, I've never done this before. And when I did, I got six people in there, 7 including me. And all of the money that I earned, which was quite a good amount of money, I spent all of that to spend 2 days with my spiritual teacher in Belgium, because I know because I've spoken to my mentor. He charged a lot of money to speak to him, first of all, but altered the direction of my life. So when I go to like offer my services to people, I'm so confident in in my service and what it is that I'm offering in this space that I'm, holding, that like I'm not ashamed of it. Like when I was young, it was like I was on Instagram as a male model. I've traveled the world, and there was all these opportunities for me to make money that just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do this. But whereas like now, it's like no, I'm actually happy to, I was going to say proud, but happy to charge money. Like it's like this is actually going to affect people's world. It's not a hoodie, it's not a jumper, it's not a materialistic app or something that I'm selling. It's like no, this is actually going to change people's lives,
Yeah, and it's fine, right? Like
It is.
you have to charge.
Yeah.
Like you will get a certain person in front of you that's ready to make the change, right? And that's a good thing about these group containers. I've also been in a couple, but it's never really my thing, right? Like I need that one-on-one mostly, and that's why I made the most progress. And even went to had a ceremony just recently and did an iboga ceremony, and was also by myself with a maestro. And people ask me afterwards, I just had a podcast yesterday as well, and we talked about this a little bit. And she's like, yeah, well, and then how was the experience? And was there fire and stuff? And I'm like, no, I was by myself in a dark room, just working through the shit, for hours over hours.
Wow.
No fancy anything, right? And the guy was just there checking up on me every 2 hours, right? Upping the dose and whatnot, and then just holding the space.
Wow.
Nothing else. Sure, that was preparation, where I got the guidance, diet, mental, combo, all that kind of stuff, right? But in the end, when it's happening, it's just he's just holding space.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh, so have you heard of these like 10-day darkness retreats? I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on those?
I'm a little frightened of that, actually.
Me too.
Like I'm not scared about anything, like in a physical sense, but that I think is a hard one for me, because like especially I just got into meditation like 2-3 years ago, right? Like sitting still for 15 minutes, which I'm at now, and sometimes I can do half an hour, but that's already, kind of my ceiling at the moment. I'm progressing, right? But like sitting still in a dark room for 24 hours. That's a tough one for me at this moment. But I want to get there.
My mentor did 10 days, and I'm like, but I don't know. Like when I was younger, I was all for intensity. Like I took DMT when I was 19 years old, and it found me. I didn't seek it out. It found me. And when I heard the guy told me he had it, I just thought of Joe Rogan, and I thought I fucking want to try that. And again, I was very ballsy when I was young. Now, if I come across somebody that wanted to give it to me, I'd probably be a bit more apprehensive. But
did you do it in a ceremony or just like recreationally?
It wasn't ceremony. It wasn't a ceremony because it was just me and him. And then also we did it again. We were on a rooftop with a group of people after I'd done it a few times, and we'd all pass the bomb around, and then one pass out, and then pass to the next person. He'd fill it up, and then you put a hat over your head, and it was the most incredible experience. I had all of these spirits around me, just going like this around me, just comforting me, and I had 2 bad trips out of 10, I think, over 3 weeks. But yeah, I guess I'm saying that because I used to be into this intense sort of like, the idea of a Vipassana retreat or a 10-day darkness retreat would be like, I wonder who I would become. But now it's kind of like, I like who I am, and I don't. Maybe I'll feel called to it when I'm ready, but right now it just feels like fuck that.
Yeah. Well, for me, same. Like I'm not like it's not interesting to me at all.
Right.
Not that I can leave my family even for 10 days. Right?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
It's impossible, but it's not where I see that I can make progress.
Yes.
Because like I can get calm, I can get collected, I can focus, I can get everything out of there. That doesn't need to be there at this moment in time. And so who knows, right? In the future, never say no, right? Like maybe it's going to be a thing for me in 10, 20 years, but like right now I'm good, right? Like there's different work to do. And
Yes.
that that recreational side of these compounds, right? Like I did, I tried everything, since I was in London when I was 18, so
Mm.
got in touch with that whole realm and like tried everything. But like it's a different thing, when you work with an experienced person, right? Like the attention, like what you want to work on, right? Like preparation of your body, of your mind, of your soul. It's just completely different thing. It's the same compound, but it has nothing to do with one another, right? Because this one thing is work and can be medicine, and the other thing is just it's fun, right? You can have a trip and all that, but it's like I have like this respect now for all these substances, and I think we have to be very cautious, and like that's I don't know if you thought about that, like with your psychosis and stuff, but like it surely plays into that a little bit, right?
The fact that I've taken DMT.
Yeah. Well,
Oh
not
yeah,
just that, but I mean like all of it, right? Like
all of
all the
it.
substances,
Oh,
right? Like an
well,
alcohol,
I
right?
was on Elvance at the time. I was on Vyvanse for ADHD, and so I wasn't sleeping properly, and I was being heavily stimulated, and so and then stress from the divorce and everything else. It was just like my brain
Sure,
was
it was
obviously
that.
going to just, the nervous system went poof,
Well,
and
there you go.
again, my understanding now is developing. I mean, it was more like, again, was it a Kundalini psychosis where I was like awakening? I don't know, but I do know that a lot of things that were suppressed came to the forefront. I
Mm.
had anger outbursts that I'd never experienced before in my life. Like I lost control almost of myself, and a funny point is that when I was young, I watched this movie. I don't know if you've seen it, called 17 Again,
I think
with
so, yeah.
Zac Efron and
Yeah, but like
Matthew
10 minutes.
Perry. Yeah, right. So there was a scene where like there was a Zac Efron was in it, and there was a bully in the lunch area, and he's spinning the ball, and he calls the guy underdeveloped because he can't control himself. And I used to get in fights at school and couldn't control myself, and I thought it was a cool part of myself, when I was young. And then when I watched that movie, I decided to myself, I don't want to be underdeveloped. Because as well, I admired Zac Efron. He got the girls and he was popular. So I was like, I just took his word for it. I didn't want to be underdeveloped at all. So then I decided, all right, I'm not going to be an angry person anymore. But what happened is I shut down the anger part of me that would express it. And I became
Mm,
resentful. I became
mm.
judgmental. And all of these, I harbored all of it inside of myself. And then throughout my awakening, it just like went, it was so insane, and realized like, oh, I do have anger inside of my body, and I am a human being, and I have all of it. The devil and the angel sort of thing, the devil,
Right.
so yeah.
And we have to experience anger. It's so important, especially for us men, right? And we're not allowed to in school. It starts
Correct.
there, right? Like we learn to not express it. We're not
Yeah.
allowed to express it even.
Yeah.
And it just builds up. It builds up, and then that's exactly what happens in the end. And I mean, what happened to you there was, saved you from a lot of shit down the line, right? Like your body, your soul, your nervous system just said, okay, this has to explode right now. Like otherwise, like it's gonna go and implode, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
have all these like major issues, right? But that's what it is. Like we have to get to this point, and that this is such an intelligent system, right? Like
It
it's so
is.
intelligent. And
It
well, like
is.
like I just talked about fascia yesterday, right? Like
Yeah.
it's incredible, like that I had like a neck injury, in my youth, and I didn't know about it, and it all came out, like around my Saturn return when I was in so much pain. Like, where the fuck does this neck injury come from, right? And like the fascia was looking for the weakest point where it could come through, and I had all this nerve pain. Like it's so intelligent. It's all stored, right? Like we have all this trauma stored there, and it's all about hydration. And we
Really.
don't understand it, and we don't understand anything about it. Like we're just at the beginning of it. Like she's an expert in this field, and like since 2018 we kind of know about like this hyaluronic acid in there, and how it relates to all these problems that we get, and all these joint pains and all that kind of stuff is all related to the fascia. It's like we have it from the top of our head to the toe. It's all connected, right?
Because I only heard the word fascia like 3 years ago.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
And then people wonder, sometimes they have shoulder pain. It's because of their left foot, and the shoulder pain is on the right shoulder. Like, imagine, just an axis.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, like right now I've got nerve pain all the way down my left leg, all the way down into
sciatic.
my left foot, sciatic pain.
Well, there you go.
And I've dealt with that for years. But like it comes in and on, and it's like my skin becomes fiery almost. Like I'm like, what's going on? Like,
Yeah,
like
it's nerve.
it's nerve.
I will send you. She has a course, I think, and also like a program where you can do like 20 minutes a day or so. And she says if every kid would do this, and starting at their 15th birthday, there wouldn't be any problems with joints and all these back pains and stuff. And I understand why, because I'm really taking care of my body now, right? Like since I was in that painful state. And it's sauna, all that stuff, it has to be irregular, right?
Right.
Dehydration is big, because we're drinking the wrong water all the time.
Yeah.
We're just drinking that water, right? Like from the tap, and we're buying bottled water, and we just think that it's good. We just
so
brand,
the solution to that is really buying like one of those £4,000, £4,000 filters eventually, is it? Because right now I stick to fruit. Like that's my thing is like I get as much fruit in me as possible.
Well, what is fruit? It's H3O.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Like that's next level. That's the best hydration you can get.
Yeah.
But that water is the worst. It just goes through the body and it like goes straight through. It doesn't even go to the cell basically, right?
Right.
So the solution is, if the best option is obviously if you have well water, I would say. Proper well, that's the best thing you can do. But then the next thing is probably like a Kangen setup, right? That you just talked about. Filter, re-energize, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we also talked about that in that pod yesterday. She said that the best water she ever drank was water that would stay in the sun for 28 days.
I've heard this as well. Right. So I did it before, like leaving it out in a bowl. It was like a day in the sun, not 28 days.
Yeah, full moon cycle.
Interesting.
Is what she said. I mean, I've heard about this too, in just a couple of days. But like we have this thing in our head, right? Like if the water's standing there, it's gonna go bad, right?
Right.
Like if that bottled water was open for 3 days, we don't want to drink it. Like it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna do it as well. I'm gonna leave it out in the sun and see what happens.
What's your setup? Are you gonna put it in a glass bottle? What's your setup for that?
Yeah, I'm just gonna find a big glass bottle and a bowl and just leave it in there and see what happens.
With something on the top of it, or
probably close it up. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Just so nothing goes in. Right.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I mean, that's just that thing with light and hydrogen, right? Like that's also things that we're just starting to understand, and that's a good thing about the internet, right? Because I think this is where all that stuff just grows, because the research is there about all these things that actually bring us forward. It's there, right? And all these but it's just everything's being buried, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Like everything's
and you get half information here, there, and everywhere, really, don't you? As well.
Yeah, because you're not going to buy the Coca-Cola water anymore. Of course, you're going to stop drinking soft drinks.
Yeah.
So who's paying these regulators, right? It's always a good thing to look at, and then the solution is to educate yourself. But that's a beautiful thing about podcasting and these long form content, and I think it just opens somebody's eyes maybe about that topic, for example, now, and they're gonna maybe research it themselves. And
because
the next time they have Nestle water on their table, they're gonna say no, thank you. Get that African water out of my site. I want to drink something else, right?
Yeah, it's because for me, I was vegetarian for 5 years, and I didn't realize, but I just like the man in me wasn't there. Like it weren't there, bro. Like because I was growing into a man, but I didn't realize because I hadn't really even. So then when I started eating meat a couple of years ago again, I started to I was like, whoa! Like I got into this relationship, and I thought I was going to make her vegetarian by being around me, but the opposite happened. I started eating steak and chicken, and I was like, within 6 months. Well, I mean, it was shorter than that, but it was obvious in 6 months. Was like, whoa! I'm like growing into a man now. And I thought, well, that's just that is just like my testosterone is coming back, you know?
Hormone balance is so crucial.
Yeah.
Man, like I also like I kind of rebuilt myself from scratch, microbiome, check, all these vitamins, everything, like supplementation and parasites and
I'd love to talk
detox.
to you about that, actually.
Yeah. Well, we can do a second one if you want.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we can talk about that. We can do a separate one just about these topics, just like a health podcast if you want. But like just in a nutshell, like we don't realize how much shit is out there, and that we're bombarded with it on a daily basis, and since childhood, we get all these vaccines like as kids, right? Like those are full with heavy metals. Like I have so much mercury still in my blood, and even though I've been detoxing for a couple years now, it's fucking difficult to get it out. Like I'm sure there's like really hardcore stuff that you can do, like really hardcore medicine and like pharmaceutical that you can do, but like it's just gonna, you have all these side effects on the side, right? I'm choosing the natural, holistic approach.
So,
A little bit of mixed with like Western medicine, right? I'm always doing the mix, right?
what's your
What's
view on
needed.
the idea, like where a couple of my teachers have sort of brought this to me, and I'm still trying to juggle it, that I've actually got 3 grand's worth of herbs that I've purchased to do like a 3-month detox. And I've been on this health trip, but actually I kind of felt like the more I like try to fix myself, I'm like manifesting things to fix. So what's your thoughts on that sense with the parasites and that, like as you go on this journey? I don't know if you've heard of Josh Mason that's doing, the detox dudes or whatever, but yeah, what's your thoughts on like that idea that I just said about manifesting problems to fix?
Well, yeah, it's a valid point, right? But in the end, you cannot manifest yourself out of a parasite overgrowth in your stomach, for example, or in your intestines.
But what about vibrational match creating an inhospitable environment for them?
Well, that for sure is also the case. You're not gonna attract all that crap like when you're in a different level, but that stuff is in you from way before, right?
And it can't disappear.
There are things that are not just gonna like be fixable by the body. Like there's heavy metals and soft metals that get stored in the fat.
Yeah.
And it just stays there unless you know how to work on that, and it's very difficult because like how's your liver and your kidney and stuff going to get there? It's like you cannot.
Yeah.
Like your own body's detox mechanisms aren't going to reach that. All these nanoparticles and the nanotech that is also in the atmosphere, like it goes to all these different levels where the body doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
That they're built this way, right? They know what they're doing, and so you have to go layer by layer and really like build yourself up. And I was smiling before when you said like you got that 3K thing, because I remember like 8 years ago or so, yeah, probably I also bought like a kit like that, and I didn't even use it, and I went bad. It was there in the cupboard.
Does it go bad?
Well, the one I had.
I hope mine doesn't go bad, because that's quite the investment.
Well, the one I had went bad, right? And it wasn't 3K, but it was like, I don't know, a couple hundred, right?
Well,
and
go on.
It just went bad, and because I didn't want to do it by myself, but like now I did it with like professionals and stuff.
Yes.
Like that, and it was just like a step-by-step process, right?
Yep.
A lot of injections and infusions,
right,
and
right.
that stuff. So but it's a different phase of my life, right? And because I now was the time to do it. But yeah, it's when you get everything just thrown in front of you at the same time, like it is going to be a lot, but like step by step,
it's
like
overwhelming. I mean, it was weird because I was preparing myself. I came back from LA, and I just decided I was going to go on a mission, because I like to be a man on a mission. It's like something for me to just immerse myself in. And I went on this, I don't know if you've ever heard of the mucusless diet. And so I was preparing myself to get the herbs, but they kept on delaying. The herbs themselves cost like 2,300, but then when it got here, I had to pay 700, 800 pound import tax. I was like, are you bloody kidding me? And then, but what I noticed was like it wasn't my back issue that I was trying to solve, but I've had a back issue since I was young, talking about fascia, that I had a motorcycle accident, and I think that's what brought it on. But it was like, my back kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse every single day. And I have an intuitive spiritual teacher in India, and she told me, she was like, Fab, the diet doesn't work for you because you have like your physical body, your emotional body, your inner child, your spiritual body, and like you need. And she said, she got me into meditation. She said, what makes you think of home and like food wise? I said bolognese, and she said dessert, and I said apple pie or apple crumble. And then she said, I want you to tomorrow forget all of the things that the strict thing that you've been doing. I want you to just go and have some bolognese. And I went and had bolognese, and I swear to God, bro, in 24 hours, all the pain had gone. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, I have been like eating really healthy, like everything that I've been told to eat. And it's like I got worse and worse and worse and worse. So I don't know. I'm lost in that sense. Like, I want to do the 90-day thing, but I don't know.
It's inflammation, right? Like is a big one. And that's
why I went work. That's why I was like, I need to be more intense. I need to be more good because this inflammation, it needs to come out of my kidneys. I need to, I was pissing in a bottle and looking at my sediment in my urine and trying to make sure my kidneys were filtering. And I was doing all of this. But it's like you become a lab rat.
Yeah, but that's the thing, with all these toxins in our body, right? Like they are on top of our systems. And the systems cannot function properly because they're just concerned about these toxins all the time, right? So everything else that gets in there in a new way is not being handled properly. You understand? Like it's that onion, right? Like if you don't take away these layers on top, your body cannot repair itself.
Yeah,
that's as simple as it is, right? So it is crucial to look into this and like to get all that shit out first.
I agree, bro. I agree.
It's going to be a process. And just go with it and just like understand it's like your spiritual journey is just going to be like exponentially better and more clean and more fulfilling, right? Because like you all of a sudden everything is aligned, right?
And
like
have you noticed a difference in your say you ADD? Have you noticed a difference in like that sort of sense? Because I am maybe dysregulated nervous system. I am all over the place, bro. Like I get my shit done and I work and I'm earning good money now and I've moved into my kinghood. I've taken control of my life, but I'm like I will have one flip flop the other side of the garden. The chair's out. I've got my jumper over there. I've got 2 pairs of shoes. Like I'm all over the shop. I am.
It has a direct correlation to all of this.
Yes.
Like just imagine you have an inflamed intestine, right? Like any supplement you put in is not going to be taken in the same way.
Yes.
Right? Like what happens? Same with the food. It's not being digested in a certain way, which means you don't have the nutrients for your hormones to be built the way they're supposed to be built. So what happens? Everything is all over the place, right? If your hormones are not intact and not leveled out, like what do you expect your nervous system to be like? What do you expect your brain like to work? Like you're going to be like you have brain fog all the time. You're going to have pain, this and that, right? Like it's normal. And it all starts with your immune system. Your biggest immune system is in your intestines.
Yeah.
Right. It's the biggest organism after the skin. Right. And it's not looked at. Right. And I've really went deep on these topics and these Western, doctors, they give you a pill. Right. And they give you what are they called? Like, these bacillus, whatever, like billions of them in a pill, right? And then kind of that's, supposed to build up your microbiome, but like they don't, talk about the correlation to all that other stuff, right? That's in all these toxins, all these heavy metals and things like that. Right? It's very crucial. And, I don't know how it is with you, but like just drink a Red Bull, like a big one, or one of these monsters, and just like listen to your gut, what happens down there. Like I drink like a Red Bull very rarely, but like just the other time, I was driving in a car like 12 hours and just had one, and then I just felt like it was like eating my microbiome like the next 2 days. Like I felt it,
Yeah, I don't touch those things. Yeah, but
man,
I get
that
it.
Stuff is nasty.
I used to drink Monster Energy on the way to school.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, because
you think it's cool.
Yeah.
It gives you that energy boost, but that energy comes from somewhere.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be missing after that, right? Like you have to like it's huge.
What do you drink coffee?
I just did like 4 months. I saw
you did that. Yeah, I saw. How was that?
it's good. Like it wasn't the first time I did that. It was probably like the third or fourth time. So these last like 5 years, I was probably drinking, or let's say 4 years, I was probably drinking coffee like 1 year out of the last four.
Okay.
Yeah. So because it is quite acidic, right?
Yeah,
And
it
I
is.
do a lot of homeopathy and homeopathic therapy, and like it's an antidote.
Right.
Coffee has all these fats and compounds in it that are an antidote to that. So it's fairly easy. When I know, okay, I focus on therapy, I focus on this, then I can let go of whatever is not helping. And that's one of them. And I switched to mate, right? Like I have mate tea all the time, and it's a very good substitute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a Brazilian thing, is it?
Brazilian, Argentinian forest. Yeah. And just put some salt in there. Maybe some MCT oil. It's good mix.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'll just let me know what info you need. I can send you your way. I have plenty of shit.
Amazing, bro.
It's good, man. It's a nice little talk.
Yeah, it was
Already
amazing.
an
I
hour
really
and a half.
enjoyed talking to you. Yeah.
Yeah, likewise. Very cool. Yeah, we'll do it again, man. And
I'd love to.
And we'll see. If there's anything we want to talk about, we can talk about detoxing. These topics they can be talked about, but it's an individual thing. There's basic things that you can take, but like in the end, like you have to talk to a professional. It's just the way it is. I'm kind of, all my friends come to me and all that stuff. I give them some tips, but
I know,
like
I get
everyone has different things they carry around. Like if you eat farmed salmon in a sushi, you will be full with worms. It's just the way it is. Farmed salmon from Norway is the nastiest shit you can eat. And people eat sushi all the time, at their favorite sushi parlor.
Yeah.
Man, it's nasty shit. Like they're being fed with anti-inflammatory pesticides and chemicals that are in the nutrition that these salmon get. Because they're basically produced on the side of Peru. Are the biggest producers of that. It's like fish flour. So they have these shrimp farms, and they grate them up, and then that looks like flour, but it's like on that protein basis, and then they mix that up with anti-inflammatory and like chemicals, so it doesn't flame up like on these ships, so it doesn't start burning in the sun and stuff like that. So you eating chemicals that are not allowed for consumption if they would be separate from that, but they allowed it inside of that, like.
Yeah.
And there's so much stuff out there. We just kind of, we think the government is going to save us, and they're there to save us, and they have all these regulations in place, like but just look at that one example. Like, how the fuck can you allow stuff like that? And nobody knows about that.
Yeah, it's insane, man. It really is. I mean, the dream is a farmstead. I think I want to live and have my own food and my own setup, own water, and yeah.
That's what I'm working on.
Hell yeah, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, it's the only way, man. Like, I mean, you saw what went on, during COVID, and if you have two open eyes, then you know what's gonna come at some point, and I think it's the only way to have your own, little piece of land and some calm surroundings and some animals and shit.
Not in England. I think I'm gonna get out of here. I've got to go somewhere hotter. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't been around, like, 'cause most of the places I've been to have been cities, so I don't know yet where it is that I would stay. But I'd have to go more places in Europe, or more places that and have a look what it is like in other areas, to see what it would feel like. Yeah.
That's a cool thing when you're kind of, in that phase of life, right? Like, you can still keep looking, Like I had this thing, like I would never feel home anywhere, right? I left home when I was 15, and then just was moving around till like 25. So 10 years of switching places all the time, like
Yeah.
like countries, literally. I lived in
Yep.
South America, England, like Spain, like all
Wow.
that stuff. And so I was everywhere, and I was always looking for that right place. Like, where is it? And the problem was I didn't feel home anywhere. And once I found out that was just my internal thing to fix,
Yeah.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden it made sense, right? And now it's like, it's just, I can be anywhere, with my family. If I see they're happy, if I see they're sleeping well, I'm good too. But like, city is definitely out of the picture. That's
Yeah.
100% for sure. I don't want to have like fucking 5G towers on top of my head all the time. I feel that shit. I'm sensitive to that stuff.
Me too, brother. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay, nice one. Okay, brother, that was good.
It was amazing. I appreciate
Talk
the
to you
talk,
soon.
man. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for watching this episode to the end. If you got any value out of it, I'd love to invite you to, send it to a friend, leave a review or a thumbs up as well. This will help the channel a lot. I thank you for that. And I sincerely hope I'll see you on the next one.